know it's not going to change a vote, but I'm just really concerned about this idea, regardless of how great the drug is and what it can and can't do, that we as a state are going to decide what can and cannot be over-the-counter medication.
Fundraiser at Governor Phil Murphy's house. So a small place, and it's like fluorescent tape on the floor pointing him where to go in a house.
We do not ask permission from far-left Democrats before we deport illegal immigrants.
Good morning. It's 8:07 on News Talk 1079. I'm Neal Larson, and welcome on this Friday. We have a lot. They have not died yet, or I should say Siney passed away. But they're still, could it be today? I'm kind of doubting it, but I don't know. We're not there. But it felt like there was enough momentum and enough steam. Yesterday didn't feel like a wind down, and the day or two before the Siney die, usually there's a wind down. So one of the big issues, which, by the way, this had big support from leadership. It had support from both members, was a bill that would make Ivermectin available over the counter in Idaho. This is such a fascinating discussion, by the way. I came across a social media video. I forget the guy's name, but he's on a ton of videos. And I always kind of get sucked in because he's usually talking about something interesting. But he said most of the rules that we have are fake. And I'm thinking, he's right about that. So now I don't propose lawlessness. I want to make that disclaimer up front. I'm not suggesting that when you see that speed limit sign, it's fake. It's actually not fake, because if a state trooper sees you going 98 in an 80 mile per hour zone, yeah, you're going to have some lights behind you and you're going to get a ticket, as you should. So that's not a fake rule, but there are others that are fake rules. And so the point in all of this, I don't want to get off on the weeds in this. The point in all of this is, if you know what the fake rules are, you move ahead anyway. You go, and I'll give you a perfect example. The Governor Little, in 2020, it was actually right around this time, a couple of weeks ago, this time 5 years ago, the governor said, I'm issuing a stay-at-home order. And I'm like, what? What is this? And you could go get groceries, and you could, if you had to see the doctor, then you could go see the doctor, go to the hospital, whatever. There were essential things that you could do. And then as we started to examine this, we realized they're not enforcing anything. They're not sending out the police. They're not sending out Department of Health and Welfare officials to show me your papers so you can prove that you're out and about for an authorized reason. But they issued the rule hoping to curb human behavior. So I introduce this ivermectin topic in that context because remember when Trump was in the inauguration, when he announced that the Gulf of Mexico was now going to be the Gulf of America? And Julie and I were listening to that. I was sitting right here in this chair at this studio, and I literally said, can you do that? Can he just do that? Well, you don't know unless you actually try. And guess what? Most maps now online, at least, say Gulf of America. It's a beautiful thing. So I would say when you pass a law in Idaho that shifts ivermectin to over-the-counter, meaning you can walk up and it's going to be right there next to Pepsid AC and Tylenol and whatever else you can buy over-the-counter. The reaction to that is, why not? Someone said that if you take too much, then it can cause problems for you. Well, that's probably true of just about every over-the-counter drug. If you take too much Tylenol, it's not going to be good. Or ibuprofen. And certainly if you take too much caffeine, that's not going to turn out well for you. So that should not stop you, because it hasn't stopped us in other drugs. And so Why not? Why not? But I am convinced there are some that are sitting waiting for permission from the federal government to do certain things. Exhibit A. And I only have one exhibit, by the way. And it is Exhibit A today. And this is Representative Ben Furman.
Something, and I know it's not going to change any vote.
I would like to debate the bill.
I'd like to debate the bill. Thank you.
Gentleman has the floor.
I know it's not going to change a vote, but I'm just really concerned about this idea, regardless of how great the drug is and what it can and can't do, that we as a state are going to decide what can and cannot be over-the-counter medication. So are we going to start bringing more bills that say penicillin can be over-the-counter? And maybe we should. Or are we going to bring bills that say other medications that we have to take that we need prescriptions for can just be over-the-counter now? I don't know. I just have a concern and want to be on the record with it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the bill.
Something, and I know it's not.
So I don't really know what the concern is. He ended up voting for the bill, and I think he voted for the bill because leadership was in favor of the bill. But I think he felt torn because, well, the federal government says this. They haven't approved this yet for over-the-counter. Can we even do this? But Speaker Moyle says he wants it, and Senate Pro Tem Anthon wants it. And so he was probably kind of torn here. But this question right here, this is one that I thought was...
We as a state are going to decide what can and cannot be over-the-counter medication. So are we going to start bringing more bills that say penicillin can be over-the-counter?
Maybe. Why not? Why not try? If we feel like it makes sense for Idaho, that's absolutely what you ought to do. In fact, anybody who's been to Mexico knows if you go down there, there's all sorts of illins that you can get. Amoxicillin, penicillin. You can buy antibiotics over the counter in Mexico. Now, I wouldn't say Mexico is the pillar of health safety, but I will say this is not an uncommon reality. In Europe, I haven't been to Europe. I'd mildly like to go to Europe to see a few things at some point in time, but it's not really a high priority on my bucket list. However, I understand if you go to Europe, that it's kind of the same thing, that there's lots of things that you can get over the counter in Europe that you just can't buy here. And we don't have people dying in the streets because ivermectin's over the counter or penicillin's over the counter. So charge forward, try it. You might have a judge that may put an injunction, a nationwide injunction on it because some pharmaceutical company issued a stay. Or requested a stay on it, whatever. Something may happen to get in the way of it happening in Idaho. But why not try? That's what I don't understand. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a little frustrated. I really don't want to be hotly critical of Ben Furman. He's a freshman lawmaker. He's getting his legs underneath him. But when we interviewed him as a candidate, I struggled with some of his answers. He's the one that famously said, do you have to be a conservative if you want to be a Republican? And when I Monday morning quarterbacked my own interview, the question, do you have to believe in Jesus to be a Christian, came to mind. Well, yes, you do. That is the core of being a Republican, is you believe in conservative ideals. So, yes, you kind of do. If you want to be a good faith Republican, you need to be a conservative. So that's always, I asked him if he was going to vote for Trump, and he projected how reluctantly he will hold his nose and vote for Trump. So he and I have a complicated relationship. And I asked him about Prop 1. He never told me how he came down on Prop 1. So I don't know where he's at with all of it. Here's another clip.
We have cut or decided to give back to our constituents close to $450 million this session. And all of that is state taxes that we've collected and we're giving back through various bills, various programs. And that's fantastic. And I voted for those, and I think it's great. here's an opportunity for federal taxes that were collected to come back to our constituents. In this bill was an opportunity for us to go back to our districts and say, we returned to our constituents $475 million of taxes. Because through the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a stupid bill, but it passed and it was appropriated, the federal government has a program that allows for appliances and insulation and home modifications to make homes more energy efficient, to save people money on their heating bills, to help with our housing crisis because appliances could have been less expensive, lowering the cost of getting into a home or remodeling a home. And those were tax dollars that were collected and already decided to go back to people who participate in the program. No different than some of the programs we passed on this floor for state dollars going to constituents. If they did certain things, they'd get the money. Same thing, but at the federal level. And why? Because it was federal dollars? Because the federal debt is out of control? I agree. But I got a hold of the program, and it says that if we don't accept these funds, it just goes to another state. It's not going to go to the national debt. It goes to another state. So now I get to go back to my district and tell my constituents that this body decided to send their federal dollars to California. Their tax dollars that went to the federal government will go to another state because we chose not to participate in a $24 million.
Okay, so he kind of goes on, and then this dramatic ending.
These are our constituents' tax dollars taken by the federal government, able to come back, and we said, no thanks, send it to California. I'll be a red light.
Okay, so he is saying no to an appropriations bill. There's nothing in the bill that he disagrees with, apparently, or at least not enough. It's what's not in the bill that he's voting no on. And this is where my logic doesn't even begin to understand. The bill probably does not include cancer funding for 2-year-olds, which I might support. I mean, to fight cancer. But I wouldn't vote against the bill because it's not in it. I wouldn't vote against the bill because it doesn't have pro-life protections in it. It's an appropriations bill, and I would look at the bill and see what it does, and then decide if I want to vote for it based on what it does. He's voting against the bill because of what it doesn't do. It doesn't accept federal money for the... And I can't think that way. I have this fundamental different approach to it where I look at what is the outcome of this bill. I don't look at what will the outcome of this bill not be compared to my expectations of what it could be. Does that make sense? Like, that's sort of a recipe for misery in your life, and I'm not applying this to Ben Furman. I'm just saying that if I go into this and I'm always measuring everything against what I wish it were, then I'm just going to lead a disappointed life. And instead, I think I would look at it and go, can I just be good with what's in it? Period. No commas, no hyphens, just am I good with what's in it? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to vote for it. And then I might say, I do think we next year should try to include this money from the federal government. But that's another entirely separate discussion, because at some point, it's sort of like, imagine if you're in a hurricane or, some other situation, and a store is getting looted, and all the bread's going to be gone in 5 minutes because everybody loves the bread. And you're looking at that going, okay, if that bread's getting stolen anyway, I might as well take my share because it's within reach. I can grab it. I can take it. I might as well take it because it's going to go to somebody anyway. You don't do that, right? Some people would. Actually, I know a number of people that probably do think that way. But I wouldn't, because I would feel like my integrity's on the line here. And maybe there's a difference because you could argue, well, that's your bread because you paid for it with taxpayer dollars. In his argument, he made that claim. I don't know if that can be substantiated because so much of the federal government is funded on debt spending. It's something that our children and grandchildren and even great-grandchildren will have to pay back. So you're not taking something you've already paid for. You might be taking something your kids and grandkids might pay for in the future or may have to pay for. Somebody's got to pay for it. So it isn't taking what should be yours anyway. And furthermore, last point in all of this, I don't believe that we should deepen our relationship with the federal government. I think we need to untangle ourselves from it. Idaho gets more money back already from the federal government than we put in. But there's a reason why the federal government wants you to keep, and I use this imagery, I'm sorry if it's a little too graphic for some of you, but the federal government wants to keep you slurping at its teat. And at some point, you got to wean yourself off. We'll be back. It's 8:24 on News Talk 107.9. Okay, it's Friday. It's 8:27 on News Talk 107.9. Neal Larson and Julie Mason. And all of y'all, if you'd like to reach us on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line, that number is 208-542-1079. Our singers are warming up front, Julie. I saw them up there.
They are cute girls. Kylie and Tayden, I believe, are the names. And so cute with SOS. They're going to be singing Stay by Rihanna.
Rihanna. I used to call that Rihanna. No, I didn't. I knew it was Rihanna. No.
What's wrong?
Well,
Every once in a while, it's just
wrong
a
with
dad joke, and then you're like, oh, I cannot shake my head hard enough or roll my eyes far enough into my head.
I know. Somebody corrected me because I talked about the pandemic and this concept of fake rules. Like they're put there, but they're mostly an illusion to try and control mass behavior. And I cited the stay-at-home order was largely a fake rule because there were no consequences.
Right.
And someone said they sent out the police to Sarah Brady when she went to the park. That's true. They did. Or she got in big trouble because her kids went down a slide.
Outdoors.
Outside in the sun.
Heaven forbid. I would say there were rules that were covered like that. You couldn't walk on the beach in California. You were arrested there if you did that.
Yeah.
I think we were fairly insulated from those overreach enforcements in East Idaho. I just don't think it was happening here.
I think largely our law enforcement agencies in East Idaho, they weren't looking for opportunities to use the pandemic restrictions to tighten the vice. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that. Because many of them probably, Julie, are like you and me. And they value individual freedom. And so, yeah. What a frustrating time.
Aren't you so glad? I mean, there's parts of you that gets the little twitch, the PTSD from how horrible that was. But then there's also parts of you that are like, I'm so glad we're not back there.
Yes, I am. But do you find it interesting? I mean, today and this week, we've been talking about this bill that would make ivermectin over the counter. The pandemic was a catalyst to make that kind of thing happen. We wouldn't even be, I don't even know if I heard the word ivermectin before COVID-19.
Yeah, we're still going to have side effects from this. The fallout will continue, I think, for decades.
Yeah, I do too. And, the bill about the mask mandates and all of that, like, I think I'm glad to see that there are lawmakers that it's still a present issue in their mind of what Fauci did, what the people in charge at the time. I know Trump was president when it all started, but they really exploited that crisis to gain a lot of government power. And I'm glad to see that we have lawmakers that are clawing some of that back.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. I also hope that there is a remembrance on everyone's part to maybe not overreact to the chaos. Overreaction to chaos, when has that been a good thing? Like if your child gets hurt, let's say your child slams their finger in a car door.
Yeah. Overreacting
instead of staying calm and helping your child, not good.
Yeah.
We need to remember to not overreact in a crisis.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. And at some point, Julie, we should have a conversation about fake rules, maybe even a flash poll. What's a fake rule that you don't pay attention to.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
All right, we'll be back, but we're not going to do that now. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we will have Kylie and Tayden performing Rihanna on today's Studio 4 cover. This may be one where
They're shorties. Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about my size. In fact, they might be just like...
Where's the middle finger?
I'm just going to tell you.
And we're back. It's 8:37 on News Talk 107.9. Neal Larson, along with Julie Mason. And Julie, pop in here. We have a couple of great guests for our Studio 4 cover this morning.
We've always loved having singers in here from SOS. That's a performing group here in East Idaho. And today we have Tayden and Kylie. They're with SOS. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
Good. Great.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourselves, how long you've been singing, and how you like SOS being in that group.
Do you want to go first? I've been singing since I was like, oh my goodness, ever since I could speak. Like I would always just do little performances for my family.
Okay, so
on
it's
the
always
kitchen
been
table.
a part of your life then.
Yeah.
That's good. And how about you?
That's the same for me. I remember when I was like 4, I did this is like my first time remembering like singing in front of people. Me and my mom did like a little performance for my like church when I was like 4. And ever since then, I've just loved performing and singing for people.
So you kind of just fell in love with it, and it's just been part of who you are. Mm-hmm. Well, so there is an upcoming fundraiser that you're going to be a part of. Let's talk about that for a minute. Go ahead. Tell us what this is for and when it is.
So it's for our benefit concert, and it's for this little girl. She's 3. Her name's Lily, and she has cancer. And it's May 21st at 7 p.m., and we're so excited. And it's where we get a bunch of money put together, and it goes towards the family.
Yeah,
so.
it's just a bunch of, in our group, it's just like local soloists from Idaho Falls. And
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just for a good charitable cause then.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're really excited.
Okay, so you're going to sing together today. You've chosen Stay by Rihanna. Why'd you choose that song?
It's always just been a good song, and me and Tayden have been working on, like, we've done this song and performed it quite a lot, so we just decided it's a good one to...
Okay.
Yep.
Do you feel ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Okay. Here we go.
All along it was a fever, a cold sweat, high-headed believer. I threw my hands in the air and said, show me something. He said, if you dare, come a little closer. Round and around and around and around we go. Oh, now tell me now, tell me now, tell me now you know. Not really sure how to feel about it. Something in the way you move makes me feel like I can't live without you. And it takes me all the way. I want you to stay. It's not much of a life you're living. It's not just something you take, it's given. Round and around and around and around we go. Oh, now tell me now, tell me now, tell me now you know. Not really sure how to feel about it. Something in the way you move makes me feel like I can't live without you. And it takes me all the way. I want you to stay. Ooh, the reason I hold on. Ooh, 'cause I need this whole gone. Funny, you're the broken one, but I'm the only one who needed saving. 'Cause when you never see the light, it's hard to know which one of us is caving. Not really sure how to feel about it. Something in the way you move makes me feel like I can't live without you. And it takes me all the way. I want you to stay. Stay. I want you to stay.
Kylie and Tayden, Rihanna, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Nice job. And good luck with the fundraiser coming up.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back. It's 8:44. All right, it's 8:48 on News Talk. 107.9 Neal Larson along with Julie Mason. Again, thanks to Kylie and Tayden for their cover of Rihanna this morning. Got some good compliments for them on our text line.
Yeah, if you'd like to know more about that benefit concert as well, there is a Facebook page called Love for Lily, Lily. Cute little girl in a yellow shirt. You can hear about her cancer struggle there. And there is information about the SOS concert on that page as well.
Okay. All right. Julie, we talked a little bit earlier about the rules that are fake.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an interesting concept because someone texted in and said, the fake rule I don't follow is the speed limit. How do they know how fast my car can go? Well, they actually have radar guns that can find out how fast you're going. So I would say even when they don't catch you, it's still not a fake rule because there is intent and they will enforce if they catch you. So a fake rule is when someone puts a sign up telling you to do something or not do something, but there's actually no potential that anybody's ever going to enforce that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like the men's sign and women's sign at a bathroom.
It's true. And at least in Idaho Falls, they're not enforcing that.
Right,
so,
right.
yeah, that would be a fake rule. I'm trying to think of some other fake rules that, I think you have fake rules all the time within your household, right? Teenagers knew what was a real rule and a fake rule.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they would catch on. They get to know their parents pretty well. They know exactly how parents are going to respond, and they knew where they could. Some kids better than others.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some are saucier than others.
Yes, indeed they are. Yes. And I won't mention any names, but Jessica was our kid that was like that.
I feel like all three had their moments in my home.
Yes. Well, yeah, all my kids did too. The labels on a mattress.
Yeah, or the pillow.
Yeah. Yeah. Fake rule or not a fake rule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, but these are kind of everywhere. Like, just pay attention. Pay attention to signs. Like this video I watched, one example, this is a perfect example, and this isn't so much like a bureaucratic rule that you're supposed to follow, but if you apply for a job and it says 5 years of experience required, it's garbage. In most cases, it's garbage. If you submit a resume and it's stellar and there's offsetting it's not actually required. Now, they may prefer it, and sometimes a job posting will have requirements and then preferences, but almost all of the requirements are actually just really strong preferences.
I can see that. I absolutely can see that. Another traffic one that I was thinking about is it's a very decent and human thing to do to pull over when an emergency vehicle is coming. But who's enforcing that?
Yeah.
They're busy responding to a emergency. They're not in the market of pulling you over for, it is the decent and human thing to do.
Yes, and I want to be very, very careful here. Please do that, because that's what you're supposed to do, even though they're tied up going to the scene of an accident.
Absolutely. That's why I said decent.
Yeah, they're not going to come at you. So yeah. And I think for my mind, in the spirit of fake rules are rules you should have no problem breaking.
Right.
Like, apply for that job anyway, even if it says you need 5 years of experience and you only have 4.5. Like just
shoot your shot.
Do it. Yeah, go for it. You know what else I've noticed? I should not give this little secret away, but I'm going to. If you get someone who is a good designer in your life, and it now could just be AI, say make a believable looking media credential. Then you go down to wherever they laminate things, because Kinko's doesn't exist anymore. Go to Laminations R Us, and get your fake media credential laminated, or get one of those little slip things that you can buy at Office Max, and get a lanyard. You would be amazed if you'll just act like you know where you're going. Nobody will stop you.
Right. I think that's in general. If you enter a room or a place that maybe someone's going to question why you're there, you just act like you know what you're doing, and you're probably not going to get questioned.
That would be a fun experiment, Julie, to print up fake media credentials and then go to ticketed events and see how many we could get in just by looking like we belong there. And we flash them our badge.
I'm sure we could get into most. And another way to do it is carry a ladder with you and put on a tool belt. And if you're a man, they'll let you in anywhere.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, please come fix our problems. Yes, go right ahead. And then you walk in and you just go do what you want to do.
That's a great idea. Like, I'll carry the ladder over my shoulder. Like, we'll get.
Yeah, if you have a tool belt down and a ladder, you're fine.
Yeah,
you are fine.
I never even thought about that. Yeah. All right, I'm going to try to get into like a Taylor Swift concert. Something that is like a $400 ticket, and see if I can get
in there.
Get in. I do know that fake FBI badge that I flash, it gets me into a lot of stuff. Not really.
I think my concealed carry got me out of a speeding ticket once.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, you told me that story. Yeah. He's like, oh, she's one of us. So,
she's one of us. All right, go. Get to work. Get out of here.
True. Another one said, expectant mother parking. I did half the job, so I'm parking there too as an expectant father.
Half the job?
See, I don't know.
45 seconds does not qualify as half the job.
I have no idea who this guy is, but he's my brother from another mother. I think that's great. Okay, I stepped in it about 6 months ago. Because the car I drive has a handicapped placard in the window. Because my mom, I take my mom places all the time. It's too much of a hassle to take it out and put it back in. So I will admit to nothing, but it may or may not have happened that late at night when there's multiple handicap parking spots available, theoretically it could have happened that a car parked in one of those.
A car driven by Neal Larson with a handicap placard.
There's like 6 handicap slots open, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I don't even take the closest one. Have I done something wrong?
In theory, yeah.
What have I done wrong?
Well, you're just not supposed to park there to take the advantage of the grace that you've been given.
It's 11 o'clock at night.
I'm just telling you, in theory, yes. I'm not saying you did.
I didn't ask what the law is. I asked, what harm did I cause to the universe by doing that?
You didn't cause it. Well, the same harm that I'm not causing to the universe when I drive 84 on a speed limit of 80 down I-15. For me, it's the same thing. I break that law all the time. I drive 84 on I-15 all the time.
I think this confession could get you a ticket. You have to phrase things very carefully. You have to
Do you know
proceed
what? A
everything
judge
with
is going to
hypothetically.
high-five me.
Yeah. Hypothetically is what Julie was saying. No, I go about 5 over on high-speed highways. Mm-hmm. I'll admit it.
You know what? I'll admit this too, because I drive it fairly often because of my children. The corridor through Salt Lake Valley.
Yeah.
You don't go the speed limit.
No,
you go the speed that everyone's going.
Thank you. I have tried to make that case before. If you're going the speed limit, but everybody else is going 15 over, you're the hazard.
You're the hindrance.
And you're the problem. Mm-hmm. You're the one that might not be violating the technical law, but you're violating the human law.
Yes.
You're violating God's law.
Because it's Salt Lake Valley.
No, not because of that. That's funny, but not because of that. That's not at all what I meant. All right. It's hey, someone said, why 84, Julie? Why not 86? Let me ask that. That's another great question. If the speed limit's 80, all of us usually do a little bit over. Uh-huh. But at what speed do you go, I'm walking right up to the line?
I think I have a 5 mile per hour leeway. Yeah. I think if I go 86, the cop might get a little itchy.
That's exactly how I think too. I used to think, well, I got 10% over. So if it's 80, I can go 8 over. I don't think cops are mathematicians. I think they're like, okay, if some are, okay, I got to explain that a little later.
Here, Neal Larson, put a target on your back.
Hour two coming up. Okay, stand by. Here we go.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neal and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
All right, welcome back. It's 9:07 on News Talk 107.9. Neal Larson along with Julie Mason. And Julie, I want to issue a bit of a clarification. I believe that many law enforcement officers can do math just fine, but they're not functioning as mathematicians. So they don't think the way I described, where like, well, you were going 10% over, and so I'm giving you a ticket. So that's all I'm saying, but it sounded like I was insulting them, like they can't do math, when I said they're not mathematicians. They're just not, they can do math, they just don't. They just are like, okay, yeah, you're just going too fast for the conditions.
I might have gotten a text from Brian Lovell during the commercial break from the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office saying, what time does Neal leave work?
Really?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I usually leave around 11 in a black Jeep. That's me, so just so you know.
With a personalized license plate with jewels on it?
Yeah. Dang it, my plan's been foiled. All right. If you want to join us, 208-542-1079. Let's go to the phones. Hi, caller. How are you?
Hi, Neal. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Getting myself in a little hot water today, but I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I'm an old retired copper, and your math thing, you're right, because I used to run time and distance. I could set 2 points and sit back with a ways off the road so nobody could see me, and I could run speed just fine with a stopwatch and a calculator.
They can do math, Neal. See?
Okay. That's not what I was saying.
I will tell you that I knew a pair of boys that would team up, and the guy that was, we call him the spotter, would set off with a pair of binoculars, and he had those 2 points measured, so he knew exactly how many feet between them.
Yeah.
And he'd run the time and distance, and then he had a buddy that was what we called the bird dog, that was sitting down on the road way ahead, so he was just pulling these guys over, just one right after another, writing tickets because
Wow.
they had no idea where it was coming from.
Okay. So let me ask you this, my mathematician friend here. Is that legally defensible in court? If that motorist decided they wanted to challenge it and they said, you don't have me on a radar gun saying I was going 15 miles per hour over the speed limit, and you stepped forward and said, maybe not, but I had a stopwatch and a notepad, and he went from the tree to the barn in 14 seconds, and that's way too fast. Would a judge listen to that?
Absolutely, because that's the way you verify your radar. Radars can be checked technically or through technology to verify that they're on, but another way is just to run the old time and distance. The math doesn't fail.
Okay, but how do you prove that you actually, I mean, at least with a radar gun, there's a digital trail there that's evidence. But if you're doing it just with a stopwatch and a pad, how do you prove that that was applied to that driver?
Okay, so you're sitting there and you can identify the vehicle.
Yeah.
If you can't, you're lost. You're right. So you've got clear identity of the vehicle. And you set your patrol car in the same spot every time. It's measured to the inch, okay? And you're measuring, say, between two power poles out there.
Yeah.
And you've measured that distance to the inch, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then when the vehicle crosses the plane of the first point, clear through the plane, okay? Not just the front of the car, but the rear of the car. So he's already completely in the travel lane. And then when the rear of the car passes that second point, you've measured that with your stopwatch.
Okay.
And you know with math, time and distance, exactly how fast that vehicle's traveling. And if those points are measured and you can show that in court, that your vehicle sits at the same point every time, and obviously the two power poles are not going to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way that it used to be done all of the time.
Okay.
That's old school stuff, but
I gotcha. All right, well, I appreciate that, and that's a great insight from a retired officer. So that's great.
So, and I would routinely pull people over for 1 and 2 miles an hour over the speed limit.
I was just going to ask you that question. I'm like, am I safe with the 4 miles over?
Oh, I would do it all of the time. If I'm driving down the highway and I'm driving exactly the speed limit and somebody goes past me, it's an automatic stop.
Wow.
Automatic. We're gonna have a conversation. Now, I may not write a ticket. In fact, I seldom wrote tickets, but I always catalog those stops, because someday I may see something that I go, oh man, there's something not right about this, and they're only 2 or 3 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Okay.
Right?
Can we create an ad hoc segment here called Confessions of a Retired Cop? Because I have another couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Would you ever go on a highway and you would deliberately go 2 miles per hour under the speed limit just to see if someone would pass you, just to see if they had the guts to pass you?
Nope, never.
Never.
I would say that falls in the category of CF. Chicken stuff.
Okay.
CS. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, since we've turned this into a segment, we talked about the Salt Lake Valley and how consistently on I-15 there, the flow of traffic is 15 miles faster. And lots of times you're very crowded on that interstate. So do you think that we should be driving with the flow of traffic, or should we be obeying the speed limit?
I don't know what Utah Highway Patrol would do, but I wouldn't mess with people that are traveling with the flow of traffic. Having said that, it wouldn't bother me one bit to pull somebody over in that scenario either.
Okay.
Yeah, because maybe not for that one driver, but for the rest of the drivers going past, they see a police in a stop, lights are on. That would probably bring the traffic speed down a little bit, right?
Generally does, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of us, what they call, have black and white fever.
I gotcha. Okay.
Got it.
All right.
Anything else?
I do have another question. Specifically for women drivers, if they cry during the traffic stop, will win some sympathy from a police officer?
I can't speak for everybody, but I never had one cry that didn't get the ticket. And I may have not written that ticket otherwise, but if I think they're crying for sympathy and or showing a little extra, then it's like, no, sis, you bought this. You worked so hard to get it. I'd be remiss not to deliver.
Okay.
Okay. Well, like the day, I wasn't there, but I had left on my church mission. My sister got pulled over that day, and she was sad because her little brother was leaving for a couple of years, just bawling. And then the day was being made worse because the police officer pulled her over, and it was a genuine cry. Like, she wasn't playing it up. And the cop said, it looks like you're having a rough day. Just slow down and you're okay. So there was some sympathy given there. And I was just wondering if that's something that could be, leveraged by half of our audience out there.
If I would say if the officer felt like it was fake, it's a good chance that there's going to be a ticket. But I had a situation where I was my wife was taking care of family, and I had all of the kids, and I had to meet her sister in an airport to deliver some things, and I had borrowed my dad's vehicle, and I got pulled over down Rigby by ISP trooper, and I didn't have insurance proof. I didn't have a lot of stuff that I needed because I'd borrowed the vehicle, and he says, "What's going on?" And I just told him. He says, "Yeah, you don't need me screwing with you today. Get home and take care of your kids."
Oh, wow. Oh, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, I have one more question here. And this is something I don't expect an answer to. But if you sort of include the detail that you're a retired police officer, if and when you get pulled over, does that work in your favor? Like, is there a brotherhood among, and I guess sisterhood too, among police officers who are like, okay, he's a retired cop, I'm not going to write this guy a ticket?
I would say that only works in a local jurisdiction where they knew that you were
okay.
You had served. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that there are times when that happens, but I've also personally written police officers out of Utah because they played that card, and it's like, no, buddy, that don't work here.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, we really appreciate you, really stepping up and making a segment out of this. We love asking these questions. It's great.
Well, you guys are great, and of course, I listen to you as often as I can, and appreciate what you do and what you bring to the community.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a great weekend. 208-542-1079. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, caller. How are you?
Hi. Good morning, Neal and Julie.
Hi.
Good morning.
I'd like to ask him if they have mercy on bus drivers.
Oh.
in their cars, not in the bus. I don't speed in the bus, but
I gotcha.
Does the serve extend if you're a bus driver?
Yeah.
There you go. Because Yeah, I don't think we can drive again if we get a ticket. I don't know that, but luckily, I mean, I don't know what happens actually, but I just thought of that when he was talking. I thought, I wonder if they give us mercy too.
Does that make you drive a little more carefully, knowing that could jeopardize your bus driving job?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't go crazy or anything, but yeah, sometimes I'm in a bit of a hurry.
Yeah. All right.
So that's not actually what I called about, though.
Okay.
I just want to, you were talking about Representative Furman, and I didn't catch what bill that was that he was talking about. If we don't get the money, the other states do. And when I was in there, that's what we heard a lot when Senate Bill 1204 in 2021. If anyone wants to look this up, that was the ARPA bill that opened up that Pandora's box for us to receive, like $2 billion or something from the federal government. And actually in that bill, it actually states that ARPA funds are borrowed from our grandchildren. To the extent allowable under law, the state should make long-range investments with ARPA funds that will benefit our grandchildren. I was horrified, but at least they were honest when they put that in there. And
wow,
I can't remember. It seems like there were there's always strings attached in some way or the other. But that was the argument that if we didn't take the money, that another state would take it. And I committed that I was not going to vote. I was going to oppose any bill that had ARPA funding in it. And I think that's one of the reasons, they said that I didn't support law enforcement, that I wanted to defund the police, that I didn't like education, all those kinds of things, because I felt it was really important to protect our grandchildren's future. And as you said, our great-grandchildren as well. So
yeah. Wow. Yeah. I guess I can understand the argument that, if we don't take it, some other state will get it. So we're not actually benefiting anything by not taking the money. I can understand that argument. Not sure I agree with it, because you have to end the toxic relationship at some point or change it.
Yeah. When does it stop?
What I don't understand is the approach that I'm going to vote against this appropriations bill because it doesn't have what I want in it, which is accepting federal dollars. Like, you have to take the bill for what it is. You're voting on the bill for what it is. You're not voting on it for what it isn't. And
absolutely.
Now, if a no vote makes it more likely that in some other process you might get that appropriation in, then it would make strategic sense for him to do that. But it wasn't ever going to change anything. So I guess my mind just doesn't process that way.
Yeah, and they're getting so close to the end that that's when they passed this 1204, was right at the end of the session, and people, and especially now when they've gone a couple weeks over, they're wanting to get out. So it's harder to argue against something and try to get a better bill because everybody's ready to go home.
Not enough time to send it back and redo it. So yeah. Well,
I
Carrie,
did want to make one more. Hang on.
No,
I
go
wanted
ahead.
to make one more point is, you were talking about they didn't really enforce a lot of things in Idaho, but there was a minister and a couple other people arrested in northern Idaho because they went out and sang outside.
That's true.
And they actually were arrested, and I think restaurant owners, bar owners, some were fined because they said, we have to stay open or we're going to lose our business. So I'm glad that we're trying to protect Idahoans, because, you always wonder if it's a trial run, if they're just seeing, push the edges, push the boundaries to see what they can get done and in preparation for the next time. And, we're not as conservative as people like to think in Idaho. The people, by and large, are conservative, but as we've seen with our legislator, and especially in eastern Idaho, we have a lot of rhinos that are, it's kind of shocking what they're voting against and what they're voting for that is not good.
Yeah.
So
we really, this legislative session, we really have turned into, meaning East Idaho has turned in to the moderate portion of the state.
Yeah.
Well, you just, you can list all those legislators that are, my three in District 31, Furnace, Raymond, and Burtonshaw, all are voting like with the Democrats, majority of the time. And I hope people are paying attention.
Well, it's interesting because if you look at the corridor of East Idaho, I wouldn't say it's the most conservative, but it's one of the more conservative areas of the state. And I would say one of the most conservative areas of the state. But we're producing the most moderate core of Republicans in the state. And that is something that I think needs to be addressed. We're not getting a reflection of what the electorate is in this part of the country. So.
Absolutely. Well, and you look at Prop 1, I think Jefferson was the highest no vote in the state. If not, it was very close. And then we produce the three that we have in the legislature. It's just, it doesn't make sense. But, they're their neighbor. They've been their church leader. They've their family. And so somehow, and they're a nice guy. That's what I hear the most. Well, if he's such a nice guy. These guys are. I bet everybody in the legislators in East Idaho, they're nice people, but their votes are not reflective of the values of East Idaho.
Yeah. No, Carrie, you're right. It's frustrating. Thank you for the call. Always great to hear from you.
That nice guy argument, I just had that conversation with a client on Thursday.
Yeah.
She was asking me about the raid at the Mickelson farm. She was raised. Well, I shouldn't say raised. She was born in Mexico.
Yeah.
And she wanted to talk to me about the Mickelson farm. We actually shared a lot of the same feelings about what happened there. We felt bad for the remaining people. We also felt like if Mickelsons knew that was happening on their farm, they shouldn't be doing it. Like, we shared a lot of the same things. But that led us into a conversation about who gets elected in this area. And we both said that in this area, nice guy or nice woman, nice gal, good church member sure takes you a long way.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not what I'm asking for in a legislator. I'm asking for that in a neighbor.
Yeah.
I'm asking that in somebody who sits next to me on the church pew. I love it when I have nice, friendly people around me in those situations. That doesn't mean they match what I have at my core with political issues. Nice guy shouldn't be the top of the attributes for your politician.
Well, you look at the relationship. It's very simple and straightforward for me. You are allocating to them political power as a voter.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what they're representing. That's the name of their job, is to represent. Okay, I'm not hiring someone to make me feel good. I'm not hiring a friend. I'm not hiring companionship. I'm not hiring an internal feeling. I'm allocating political power to them to go and represent how I feel about politics and about political power.
Absolutely.
That's what the relationship is. And I think you're spot on, Julie. Too many people get swayed by it. Well, he's a pillar of the community, or I think he's honest, or he's very nice. Those are tangential to the core reason why we send them there.
Mm-hmm. That the rest of that conversation led us to Hiram Erickson, which was, we heard over and over about what a wonderful person Hiram Erickson is. I have no doubt.
Sure.
In the times we interviewed him, he was a great guy in the interview.
Yeah.
He was polite. He didn't throw stones. He wasn't combative. Like, all of those things were existing. I fundamentally believe he chose wrong on that issue.
Yeah.
I want someone to represent what I fundamentally believe in, not a nice guy. That's not what I'm looking for.
You're right. But you know what, though? Like, I look at American politics. Somebody like Gavin Newsom could win because he seems really likable.
Yeah.
And far left liberal, but he seems likable. And so it's a tough challenge. It really is. And I'll say this too, though, because this can cut both ways. So if we're going to have this discussion, let's have the mirror image of this discussion. There are people that I probably agree with 95% of the time, but they're lousy personality-wise. Like, they're caustic and they're toxic and And I'm like, that's not good either. Like those traits of being likable are very valuable to getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
They just are.
Yes, honey more than vinegar.
Exactly. And so I need both of them, to be honest with you. I need to be represented politically, but I need you to be nice enough, likable enough, workable enough that you can actually deliver on the political power I gave you and deliver on legislation. So I don't want to leave this conversation with the idea that stuff doesn't matter or it's not important. It's just secondary. It is important because you need it to get things done, but it's secondary to the most important thing, which is you need to be philosophically at home with your constituents.
What if we adapted this conversation to this point? We like a nice guy or a nice gal. We don't like a nice guy or a nice gal that uses that to manipulate voters.
Yes.
To
Amen.
make them believe I am truly a conservative, and then to show up and not act like a conservative with your votes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Agreed.
do like a nice guy or a nice gal, but we like them to be genuine.
Yeah, not used in a manipulative way.
Yes.
I like that. All right. It's 9:30 on News Talk 107.9. We have got to take a quick break. We will come back and we'll continue, and we'll take more phone calls when we return on this Friday on News Talk 107.9. Bum, 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 ba-dum. So, how about this, Julie? I'm going to create a mathematical formula right now. Compatibility with your constituents times your electability equals your value as a lawmaker.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that.
So you can mix and match here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're only 50% in line with your constituency, but you're 100% electable because you're nice, you're the bishop, you're whatever. Your value is 50.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say you are in near perfect alignment with your constituents, but you're only electable half the time. Your value is still only 50.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to mix that. And I will say this is another sort of I'm kind of freewheeling it here. I will take a reduction in your ideological purity by 1 or 2 percentage points if it raises your electability by 4 or 5 percentage points. I will trade some ideological purity for a higher electability.
Not straight across, though.
Not 1 for 1. It's got I would say, okay, you can leave the farm 5%, but it needs to increase your electability chances by 25%. Mm-hmm. Like there's got to be an ROI for that sacrifice. I would rather have a politician that agrees with me 75% of the time or 80% of the time, electable 100% of the time, than rather have one I love perfectly how they vote and everything else. If it's a crapshoot every election that they're going to get elected.
Right. Well, one of these East Idaho lawmakers that we're talking about, I regularly have great text conversations with. Regularly. Yeah. I would actually consider that legislator kind.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I appreciate that the votes that are done.
Yeah.
Or turned in by that legislator because it's too often with the Democrats.
Yes. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. There was a bill about the DEI that they are removing the requirement for DEI. Mm-hmm. You can't require kids to take a DEI test, something like that. And a bunch of the moderates voted against it.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand Cheatham and Manwaring voting against it because ISU's in their district. Now, not that I agree with their vote, but that's a politically explainable vote.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a lot of professors and students and others that may not like this bill. They may be kind of wokish. And yeah, they're Republicans. They probably shouldn't be voting for the bill. But I understand their vote because they live in a university district. There's a lot of lawmakers that don't have a university in their district.
I can think of one specifically. Okay, let's explain the How much time do I have?
15 seconds.
Okay. We'll come back to the demographics of Idaho Falls on the next break.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. 9:35 on News Talk 1079. Grand Peaks Prime Meats. It's the place you want to go because I don't know if you've noticed or not, but it is spring. It's grilling season. Everyone can agree now. We might fight about whether February and January is grilling season, but everybody can say April is, especially when we have the sunshine, the warmer temperatures, and the spring-like weather. So go get your steaks and your ribs and your dogs, and not just hamburger patties, but things like jalapeno cheddar hamburger patties.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so much cool stuff that's going to just make your mouth go, whoa!
Also, in the next couple of weeks, we've got Easter coming up, and they have some specials going on right now on ham, which a lot of people like to cook for their Easter dinner. So if that interests you, you really should go to gpprimemeats.com. Again, that's gpprimemeats.com. They have all their specials on there. If you don't see something you're looking for, or if you want a really specific size on your ham, or maybe you're doing prime rib or a roast and you need to talk to somebody, absolutely call them. This is not a place where they're like, oh my gosh, can you just order online? They want to help you. They're so kind at Grand Peaks.
Would it be over the top to shape the ground beef in the shape of an egg for over Easter weekend and grill that?
No, go right ahead. I don't know how if it's going to cook all the way through, but you give it a shot, mister.
You know, you just cook it slow.
You could even do, because some people will put a piece of cheese in between their ground beef and cook it that way.
Yeah.
That could be your yolk. You could put a piece of cheese in there.
Julie.
There you go.
That is a great idea.
I dare you. Let's do it. It'll cook better if you do that because you're not having to do the meat all the way through.
Yeah, that's true, but it'll be warm enough to melt the cheese anyway.
Yes. I encourage
high five.
you. Thank you.
We've invented something. That's awesome. Yeah. All right, let's go to the phones. 208-542-1079. Caller, thank you for waiting this morning. What's on your mind?
Well, I wish I was in your studio this morning because it sure seems like I've got an opinion on everything you're talking about.
That's what we do here. What's up?
But I will limit it to this. I was with my father several years ago, and there was a gentleman that we knew that was running for political office. And my dad said, we need to vote for him because he's a bishop. And I thought, that's the last reason we should be voting for the guy. And the three of us share the same religious belief. And sometimes I get frustrated with the membership because we can be super gullible. How many times do you see in the news where there's a person of priesthood leadership that next thing you know, he's running a Ponzi scheme or something, and half the ward and everybody else is invested in that because he was a priesthood leader. Yeah. And they took that as his qualification. And so as we're in a Mormon-rich environment here. So just because they're of our religion or a church leader, that just doesn't necessarily qualify them to be a good legislature or whatever office they be running on. So yes. I'll leave it with that.
Perfectly stated.
Understand that opinion he has, yeah.
I think this used to be an uncomfortable conversation. I don't think it is anymore. If you're a bishop, I'm glad you're a bishop, and I hope you're serving your flock well and treating them. Any sort of entitlement does not go beyond your purview of being a bishop. And I say, you and I are both devout members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This same principle applies to any faith, though. If you're Catholic, it would apply to the priest. If you're whatever. So I don't want to just make it seem like this is a Mormon thing. But I will say, I look at the individual and I say, okay, who's going to best represent these 40,000 people that are living in this legislative district? That's really the question that answers it for me. Sometimes maybe it ends up being the bishop. Other times, maybe not. But I do think that there is kind of an unhealthy relationship that we have where we will stretch an ecclesiastical calling into social mileage for another role in their life. And that should never happen.
Quite honest, it's a level of DEI that we just don't talk about, right? We are frustrated as Republicans that somebody of a certain race receives a better chance at a job than somebody of another race. Or we're frustrated that somebody with a certain gender preference receives better treatment in a workplace than somebody else.
Yeah.
Why are we extending that to who we're electing? We're deciding that, well, they've got to be the good person because they're part of my religious affiliation. That's a level of DEI you don't want to flirt with.
Can I quote Jesus right now?
He'd probably like it, so go ahead, as long as it's accurate.
This is accurate.
Okay.
I have quoted false Christian scripture before, but this is actually a quote. Render unto Caesar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That principle also applies with your vote. Christ very, very succinctly outlined the delineation between God's realm and the worldly secular realm.
Mm-hmm.
So don't stretch a religious title into a secular benefit. That just shouldn't happen.
Yeah. I'm with you.
All right. 208-542-1079. Could run as Caesar. All right. We have to break. We
do. We got other stuff to do.
We went really long. We'll be back. It's 9:41 on News Talk 1079. Okay. Can we go back to that last caller for a minute? And we're on with our Facebook. Oh, you were going to tell a story. Finish your story.
Well, I was just going to say, the demographics of Idaho Falls, Ammon area have always been really interesting to me. And this happens in other areas, so it's not weird. It's just very specific here in East Idaho. So in the Idaho Falls area, typically a house on the west side of town does not have the ability to get as high a asking price as a house on the east side of town. Okay?
Yeah.
Same thing is true for the religion. There is more members of the Church of Jesus Christ on the east side of Idaho Falls and in Ammon than there is on the west side of Idaho Falls.
Gotcha.
For some people, that's great. For some people, it's great in the opposite direction.
Yes.
You know, you choose to live where you choose to live, and that's awesome. Okay, so what that means, though, if you live on the east side of town or in Ammon, and you can flex your church leadership position, it works out pretty darn well for you.
That's a really good point. Depends on the demographic.
Yep.
Okay, can I'm always doing the self-check, though, because if, let's say you live in an area that's heavy in New England Patriots fans.
Okay.
And being a New England Patriots fan is going to benefit you. You're going to flex that in an election.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference then? I find it offensive. There's a word for it. We call it priestcraft, when you flex a religious position for some other benefit.
Some gain.
Some personal gain. And so from the religious angle, it's more offensive. But from the political angle, isn't that just smart politics, that you try to make as many connection points of familiarity as you possibly can, whether it's you're a New England Patriots fan or you're of the same faith? And by the way, I'm a bishop of that faith.
I actually have an answer for you.
Go ahead.
I'm not as angry at the politician, or not angry wouldn't be the word, but disappointed or frustrated with the politician as I am with the voter who gets duped by it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's really the voter's responsibility, and we got to quit being duped.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because if I was the PR person for that candidate, I'd probably tell him to flex it.
Yeah, you'd be
I probably
smart too.
would.
Yeah.
So we just have to be better voters.
Yeah. Okay, my question, that last caller. Do you think that problem that he's talking about, that years ago, it's like, well, we need to vote for him because he's the bishop and he's a good man. Do you think that's still as prevalent as it was then? I don't. It's still there. No doubt it's still there. But I think, and sorry, I know I'm going to use unauthorized language here, but I think Mormons are more independent now than they used to be.
I would agree with that. I think we're shifting out of that how do I say it and not have it, that dutiful obedience to things that actually aren't commandment.
Yes, right.
Okay.
That's true.
That was probably the best way I could have said that.
Does that fit into our fake rule?
Yes.
Discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is no commandment to elect someone who has the same religion as you. Quite honestly, there is no commandment to choose a doctor based on the same religion as yours. There is no commandment to choose a child care provider because they have the same religion as yours. I hope you're actually choosing the most qualified doctor, the most qualified child care provider, and the most qualified politician.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask this question, because I think this is the gray area here. What if you're hiring people and you know culturally they're going to be a better fit if they happen to be of a certain faith?
For a business?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that. It's equal opportunity employment.
No, I know. 9:47 on News Talk 1079. At some point, Julie, we didn't get this done yesterday, but at some point, going to get out to Town and Country Gardens, get the 4-step lawn program, and get those humates down.
Absolutely. For me, it's got to happen this week because you need to look at your schedule and you need to get the humates onto your lawn as quickly as
March, April.
Yeah, March, April time.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving town next weekend. And so it's got to happen. If you're that person, get down there now because it's not as busy at Town and Country Gardens right now as it will be later on in April as people are prepping. It's a great time to go, and you can get your seeds, and you can get your bushes, and you can get your trees, you can get everything.
So here's what you do. Calculate your square footage of your lawn, and it's very easy to follow. They'll tell you how much product you need for the size of lawn that you have, and I'll be up front. I don't think Rex would even care that we're telling you this. For average size lawns, it's probably going to be for the entire year. It's going to be between about $150 to $200, somewhere like that. That is so easy, though, and inexpensive compared to having a lawn service coming to take care of your weeds or to whatever. So, and
it's easy to apply.
It's very easy to apply. Just your applicator. You just walk it. I have one that's a spreader. And you walk, and it takes me about maybe 15 to 20. I have a lot of lawn, and it takes me about 15 to 20 minutes to just walk it over and get it done, and then you're done for a couple of months.
And you get a little vitamin D at the same time. All good. Good things.
Yeah, it's great. Get down there while you're there. Grab your seeds for your garden if you know you're going to be planting stuff, because sometimes those go fast. And also mark your calendar for April 24th. Because there's a really, really cool event coming up that you can find out more about at mygardengeek.com. And I'm just going to say a few words. I didn't count them because one's a hyphenated word, so I don't know if you count those. Glow-in-the-dark petunias.
There you go. They're so cool. This is an event where you can sign up to get VIP tickets. There's only a certain amount of petunias being sold at the event. So if you want to learn about these glow-in-the-dark petunias, again, that's mygardengeek.com. Really cool event. There's food, there's drinks. It's like a party that's happening that night. And you can get yourself one of these flowers.
It's called the Firefly Petunia. And if you go to mygardengeek.com, you can find out more. Again, that's Saturday, April 26th. So Town and Country Gardens, south of Idaho Falls, across from the beer plant on the Yellowstone Highway.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Julie, we were talking about, are we done with the religion thing?
We're probably done with the religion thing.
Yeah. That doesn't mean we're quitting religion. We're just, it's a topic we're not going to talk anymore. Because other people would say, I'm done with the religion thing. And then they just go fishing every Sunday. So
yeah. I don't know if I can find it now. Okay, I want to talk about this text that we got. It says going 15 miles over the speed limit because everyone else is doing it is similar to saying that it is okay to do something wrong because everyone else is doing it. It doesn't make it right. I contend it makes it safe.
Yes.
I wasn't asking if it was right or wrong. I know I'm breaking the law. I'm contending I'm making it safe.
Okay, Yeah. That's what is right.
Safety's better than the law. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. The law does not make something right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maximizing people's well-being is what makes it right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry if you feel icky that you're breaking the law, but you are literally making people less safe when you insist on going 75 when everyone around you is going 88 or 90 miles per hour. You're the one that is making it unsafe.
I'm going to give you another version of this. In East Idaho, I know administrators at schools who conceal carry.
Yes.
It's supposed to be a gun-free zone.
Yeah.
But they are conceal carrying. Guess who I want to be the administrator for my child?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same kind of argument. One is safer than the other, especially if the administrator is very well trained and is prepared to step in between me or my child and a bad guy and take care of it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I am too. And so I look at, you know what? It's like, and I've always said this, you have lower laws and you have higher laws. Sometimes the higher law is in violation of the lower law.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the higher law is, at the end of the day, my kid comes home from school safely.
Yeah.
That's the highest law.
Yep.
The lower law says you can't have guns in school, because the lower law spokesman talks like that. But and so you look at it, what is truly I don't like the term greater good, because that gets twisted into socialism too much. But honestly, what is the greatest good? It's that people are safe, dealing with the realities of the life that we have. And the truth is, when you drive down through Utah, most drivers are going about 10 to 15 over.
Mm-hmm.
And so the greater good is, you know what? I can't control everybody else's behavior, but I want to be safe, and I want those around me to be safe. I don't want to force someone to have to suddenly change lanes and endanger someone else. So you go with the flow, and that's the higher law.
We've had another instance where I believe that it becomes very complicated of, should I do the rule thing or should I do the correct thing, the morally correct thing?
Yeah.
And this instance is, we now have rules in the various school districts where it doesn't matter who was the instigator in the altercation, both parties will be punished. So I understand why they have the rule. It's very complicated, but what that has fostered is an atmosphere like we saw at Rigby High School, where people stood around and filmed somebody beating up somebody else, and nobody stepped in to protect the girl that had no idea she was going to get pelted from behind with a complete cheap shot.
Yeah.
Okay, the right thing to do would be to not stand there and film, but to stop.
Yes.
Stop what's going on. But if you do, you might get in trouble with the administrator. One is morally correct and safe. One is correct by the rules of the school district.
Yeah. What's the higher law? What's the lower law?
Mm-hmm.
I just invented a word. Complis stupid. When you have a stupid rule and they don't acknowledge it as such, and they just say it's complicated. No, that's complis stupid.
Yeah. Yep.
You heard it here first. Me and George W. Bush. What was the one he always used to say? Misunderestimate. Don't misunderestimate me. All right, we got a break for our final break here. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up after this. Okay, so someone said, as a former bodily insurance adjuster and retired senior, I drive the speed limit and try to stay out of the crazy drivers as much as I can. I'm not comfortable driving over 80 miles per hour. That's from Nina. So here's what I would say. Get in the right lane and stay there, because that's where your slower traffic is going to be. That's probably your best bet. I also don't want somebody driving faster than they're comfortable driving.
Mm-hmm. And I would recommend in high pressure situations like the Salt Lake corridor.
Yeah.
Have somebody else drive you.
Yeah, somebody else.
Who's more comfortable with that.
And sometimes there are highways you can take that are not going to get you there as fast, but they're at a pace and a speed.
A little bit slower speed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
45 seconds. Deleting. All right. Our texts were pretty robust today.
Yeah, lots of listeners today. Love that. Somebody said speed limits are arbitrary compromises. Cars going 80 plus and trucks going 70 is a recipe for disaster. You know where I see this problem a lot when I drive to Utah is as you're headed through Tremont and it's still 2-lane and it hasn't switched to 3 yet.
Yeah.
And you get 2 semis trying to pass each other.
Yeah.
Completely disrupts everything.
That's true. It's 9:58. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And how's the weather supposed to be this weekend?
I haven't even looked.
I haven't either.
Hopefully good. It looks beautiful out there right now.
Yeah, I think we're going to be all right. I have to put weather to get weather. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Julie and I will be back here on Monday.